Okay, hi everyone. Today I'm going to be doing some tips on how to be a successful online school student. I'm not going to be specifically targeting my school, but just my experience with online schools. So stay tuned. Okay, so a little bit about me. Um, I completed a bachelor's of psychology and a master's of public health in I think 4.5 years. I did take a little bit of a break, probably like I would say about 5 to 6 months between both degrees. But there are some things I learned along the way. Do I regret anything? Not really. Maybe a little bit about my major, which I will go into. But specifically, there are things I learned along the way that I wish I had known or had met other people that have finished their degrees online, but nothing real negative, just about how to be a successful student overall and how to bring these skills into the workplace. So, the first thing I will say is try to find out and see if online school is right for you. Now, I know, like a lot of us, maybe it's changed a little bit since the pandemic, where a lot of schools, if not all of them, had to entertain online classes because of the pandemic, which it's sad that the pandemic happened. I'm really upset about it, but it also revolutionized the way that people looked at education because people were still doing their classes. Some were struggling because online is not for everyone. You have to have some level of autonomy. If you're a person that suffers from ADHD, you might have a hard time completing assignments because you don't have that pressure around you other than deadlines. So you have to learn time management. You have to try to figure out how are you going to get your assignments in. And I realized something I was doing in my bachelor's. I was more doing the schoolwork for just because of the assignment's sake. However, by the middle to the end of the degree, I realized that I was making great assignments. I was learning, but I wasn't, for anyone that has a passion for academics, there's a difference between completing assignments and actually having a passion for what you're learning. And by the middle of my degree, I realized I was not doing this. And so I started reading I started reading widely, not just things that apply, to my assignments and the assignment requirements. So that's where I developed a deep passion for psychology. I was reading way beyond the regular, the Marxists and all them things. I was going into all kind of theories and stuff. And then I got myself a book because my bachelor's is psychology and addictions. I started reading about treatment things, treatment plans, how to make treatment plan, type of treatments, depending on the person's biopsychosocial review, which was not required. It was not required for my degree. I also wanted an internship, which was optional, but I wanted an internship, not because I wanted it to look good on paper and make me more employable, but because I wanted to learn the material. I wanted to learn everything there was to learn. So time management is one. So you're gonna have to, or I would suggest you create a timetable where you kind of try to stick to. I know you won't stick to it perfectly. I know I didn't, but it gave me a framework of how to complete assignments, when to do readings, and it also helped that we were born in this era where I had a lot of audiobooks. So there would be audiobooks when I'm at work, doing the overnights. I'd be listening to my audiobooks, and that's another way for me to learn. Because while I've never been officially diagnosed with ADD, I kind of have some of the features of it. So for me to learn, I can't sit and read a book for many hours. What I would do, I would be doing things, whether it be cleaning, doing paperwork, providing care while I had my headphone in, and I would literally remember almost word for word what this book was saying. So that's another thing you could do. If you're the kind of person that requires a lot of like just people around you doing the same thing, either for the competition of it or just the fact that you like to be in an environment when everyone else is learning and you're learning from input, online may not be the best place for you because especially when you get to the master's level, a lot of these people are busy people, they're busy professionals, and they may not necessarily have the time or interest to help you with anything. I was fortunate enough to have found a Facebook group of online students, which brings me to the next thing. But I found this online forum where I could help other people, and I got help from other people. Especially when I had this one statistics class, and I was trying to create a study on addictions using a drinking scale, and I did not, no matter how many times I reviewed and tried to study how to reject null hypotheses, I just could not determine based on the study I did because number one, the study population was very small, and the difference between the two groups, it was just really minuscule, and I did not know how to, if I should reject null hypothesis or not. And I presented my study, and a couple of people reached out to me. They're like, yes, this is what you do. This is why, not just saying go ahead and reject. They're like, no, you can't reject because this, this data is saying this data, this analysis is saying this, so you shouldn't. And they gave me an explanation, and I was able to go back through it. Plus, my school was amazing where they provided us with I think it was 250 tutoring hours, and that also helped me a lot. So that's another thing too. Try to find all the resources you can to help you out because, you're not necessarily learning the best from other people, especially with discussion boards. You'll find people that in there that are wonky and don't even know what they're talking about. But find all the resources you can, The next thing too is make sure to find the right school. I can't emphasize this enough. Find one that is, if it's for profit, it would be good if it's a brick and mortar extending into online. You don't want to find one that is for profit, doesn't have a campus, is being operated out of some mall somewhere, because the quality of the education is not going to be the greatest. They might try to give you leeway so you pass because they have to maintain their retention rate. You don't want all of that. You want a school that will be like, look, you're not making sense. You need to go somewhere else. You want that. You want a school that wants you to be a part of their quality and not just the quantity. So make sure you do that. If it has a campus, I'll say go ahead. Nonprofits are way better because, they tend to not be pushing you to pass just to maintain numbers. So also do that. I know cost is another thing. I would say look for one that's cheaper to in the middle because you're going to be very upset if you leave and you can't find a job. Okay? What a lot of people don't understand, yes, degrees help with your employability, but it does not guarantee anything. I mean, when I finished both degrees, after a while I started losing faith in my degrees because I just simply couldn't get a job. But it was because of COVID. Plus, I had a significant skills gap. So I have 2 degrees, and then most of my experience were they were distorted. They were all over the place. So it was a little difficult for employers to hire me for the positions that they have because I would fall in a higher wage bracket, but I don't have the experience. And a lot of these experiences are company specific. So it was a little challenging. However, as time went on, I started realizing that it was most of the pandemic in my experience because the more I got experience was the more I started freaking out when it comes to applying for jobs. So I'm just going to apply for one per month because I don't want to run into this whole thing where I have 5 employers trying to get me, and then I have to tell some no, and then this one doesn't work out, and then I try to go back here and I'm blacklisted. The next thing too is make sure that you're grasping the information. If you find that you are getting good grades because you're a great writer like myself, but you're not retaining the information, you need to go back to basics. Learning the degree is not the professor's responsibility, okay? They're just looking at through papers. And you may be a person that can bullshit and make things sound good or provoke thought, but you need to get the information because the problem is when you leave then go into the world of work, you're going to need this information. You're going to need the skills that you should have gotten in this degree. The employer is expecting you to have grasped these skills through your degree. And if you just did it to pass papers, you're going to have a problem. Which brings me to my next thing. Do not throw your books away. Do not. I still have all my books, okay? I didn't sell any, I didn't give any away, I didn't donate anything. I kept all my books because there have been times when I needed to go back to them for reference, to relearn a skill or to refresh a skill. The next thing too, procrastination is the enemy. And your degree, or the process of your degree, is a perfect ground to affirm this problem. So if you procrastinate a lot and you're always getting away by telling your professor something came up, you were busy, blah, 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 try not to do that. Try to put something off, whether it be going out with friends or watching a movie, because you may be able to finish your degree strong, but trust me, I've done this in my bachelor's. You're gonna bring it over into into your job, and I did that in one of my jobs where I kept procrastinating. I wouldn't meet deadlines, and then people would help me out because I missed the deadline. And then when I got to my master's, like, you know what, I need to stop this now. So even though the deadline would be 11:59 on a Sunday, I gave myself Friday nights. Friday nights were my deadline. Reason being, I'm trying to train myself for the working week, so Monday to Friday, and then weekends is my recreational time. So that helped a lot because I retrained my brain not to just wait for the pending deadline Sunday at 11:59. So that was amazing. So yeah, try not to procrastinate. Try not to. I know a lot of us, we do our best work when under pressure, but you don't want to take that in your job, because not only might you end up getting in trouble, but you could also end up getting yourself blacklisted from a bunch of companies because you just come off as super lazy and not respecting deadlines. Make sure that, and I keep going back to this, make sure you focus on the material. Focus on the material. Grasp the material. If you feel like you wrote a paper but you still don't completely get what you're writing about, go deeper. You don't have to have a name and corner or an audience. Go back until you can understand the concept, because as I said, it's going to bite you in the butt when you start working and employers expect you to have these skills and you really don't. For me, that's been statistics, and that's why I don't apply, even though I have an MPH, I don't apply for jobs that require a lot of data analysis, because I know I never grasped that concept. It was my weakness. And I always put on my resume basic understanding and execution of statistical analysis. So I'll never apply for an epidemiologist assistant position because I'm not good at statistics. So that's my next point. Know your weakness when you're applying for a job. What is this? So I had to pause because I couldn't collect my thoughts. But the next one too is to research your major. I did an MPH because I want to be in healthcare, but not as a provider or practitioner, but I want to work with data. Well, not like, that kind of data, but interpreting data for someone that does not understand statistics. It have worked out for me to a good extent, but in the field of work, I realized that as a non-practitioner with an MPH, it's a little difficult to get a job with that, like specializing in that field. And I started noticing it within the middle of my degree, where I would say 90 to 95% of the people, maybe 99%, were practitioners. There were several nurses in my class. There were 2 physicians. There were people that worked in biohazard labs. So I realized that I was the only one that just had a psychology degree. Of course, it's not that common, but there have been people, like when I YouTube search, I found people that did psychology and they wanted to go into health advocacy, and so they did an MPH, which is a good take, by the way. But when I started applying for jobs, I realized that there were a lot of people in human services that wanted me. So while it kind of aligned with what they wanted, it was also out there. Like most of the people in the field had MSWs and Masters of Psychology or even nursing, but there weren't anyone with MPHs. Like, no. Even the job I have now, they had to twist some stuff around in order to get me to qualify at the master's level because, as the employer said, he feels bad to be hiring me just for my bachelor's and not recognizing my hard work of getting an MPH. So he used a lot of the extra courses that I did because my bachelor's is bachelor's of psychology with minors in sociology and communication. So he kind of coined that together, plus a lot of my experience working with children and young adults. And there were a few courses in the MPH that could apply. But had I done a master's of psychology, then I would have just jumped straight to the top immediately. Of course, he explained to me that if I wanted to, then I could go ahead and I could complete a psychology degree while I worked there because they do tuition reimbursement. So that would be amazing. And I could end as a licensed therapist, which I think I'll take him up on his offer. I could also go ahead and do a master's of public health administration or health administration by just doing 6 courses. So that's another thing you could research too about your school, what applies. Oh, and a good point. During my MPH, because the first part seemed it wasn't easy, but it wasn't like crazy. I always thought that master's degrees would give you migraines every night. But what I started doing, I would take the assignments and I would put them on Google and see what other schools' MPH programs were like. And I was shocked because they were pretty much very similar, if not the exact same, because so when you have an MPH program that needs accreditation, there is something you have to follow. Okay, there's a national standard you have to follow in order to obtain accreditation. So your assignments need to be along a certain guideline. Your course requirement need to be along a certain guideline, the books and everything. So I was like, okay, it's pretty much the same. So I tried out for George Washington University, which they were like, oh yeah, we'd be happy to have you. But it was a difference between $30,000 and $75,000, which I was not going to pay for a master's of public health. My philosophy is, whatever you pay for your education, you need to make within a year, okay, before taxes. And unless I lived in DC, I would not be making $75,000. So I walked away from that. But, other little tips I would say, read widely. Think of this process as not just getting a piece of paper, but learning a lot, which means that you're going to read widely. It's good to bring new knowledge to your classes, new knowledge to your discussion boards, reaching out to professors, having intellectual conversation. It will help you a lot, okay? With online, especially like online education, the onus is on you to grasp the information. It's not the responsibility of the professor. I know it's the same thing in school, but you have a little more leeway of meeting with professors and talking to them. Another thing you'll also notice is that when it gets to the master's level, there are a lot of professionals in there because they're already in a job and they're trying to move up. And so they're trying to grasp the knowledge and prerequisites to get that promotion. So they're not playing. They're trying to make their greens. They're trying to improve their skill set. So you might not get a lot of help from them. In the bachelor's, it was a little more challenging because I will say, because there's no SATs involved, sometimes you have people that they're not contributing anything. They're barely making it through. A lot of them don't last. They drop out, because they're not prepared for college education. So you might have a little bit of trouble in that. I will also say certain majors to me don't make sense online. And I don't want any schools to come at me for this, but stuff like graphic design, I had a graphic design class, and if I was going to do that as a major, I would want to be in a classroom. Okay, I would not want to do that online because yes, I'm artistic, so I was able to grasp a little bit of something, but don't ask me anything about Photoshop. Don't ask me. I did not learn much. So I can only imagine doing that as a major. But there's some majors that don't make sense, period. Not saying graphic, because graphic design, it makes sense, especially with our world now. But there's some majors that don't make sense. I won't reference them because I don't want anyone coming at me. But there's certain things I just think you should never learn online. You need to be in the presence of others so you can share ideas in real time. But yeah, that's my little tidbit. I'm sure there's a lot more I could talk about. If you want to ask some stuff, specifics about school, my school, other schools, what I think about others, which I will not mention here, please leave a comment and ask questions. If you want to start a conversation outside of YouTube, because we no longer have inboxing on YouTube, you can contact me through my email address, which I'll leave at the end of the video, and we'll get this discussion started. But as I said, I just got another job and I've never felt better. My employability is on point. So let's bring these adult learning skills to the workforce. So until next time, see you guys. Thanks again for watching my video. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe if you haven't already. If there's a topic you'd like for me to discuss, please leave a message in the comment section under this video, or you can send me a personal email. My email is listed at the end of several videos. If there's a national or board exam you would need to take at the end of your degree, please go ahead and research and make sure your school's degree program is approved. Have a wonderful day.